Here.
October, Amy, Suita, Thomas, Catherine, Eden,
Here.
Diane, Tommy,
Here.
Lucian, Sohail,
Here.
Alexander, Derek, Colin, Sybil, Andy, Amanda,
Here.
Eunice. I put up the scores for your quizzes. One of you has to take it yet, and when that's done, I will hand them back. So please do that. Think of because I had some technical difficulties, that determined how I ended up organizing the morning class. So I'm going to basically do the same thing, hopefully without technical difficulties. So first thing I'm going to ask you to do is take out your books and read the declaration.
Okay, I will.
Fourth of July party? Yeah. You mean a July 2nd party?
Yeah. Have one? No, we have it earlier.
Oh, you want to do it earlier?
We want that more.
How about we celebrate it today?
Yay!
Perfect. We'll be talking about it today.
Oh my god!
There you go. So could you please read the declaration?
Where is it?
The declaration. What declaration?
It's 469.
You didn't do that spider. The what? The spider. I don't see anything.
finished. You're jittery today. Every time I speak, she jumps out of her chair. When you're finished, you can go to Moodle and see that there's a link to the edited version that has side by side Jefferson's original version of the Declaration and the one that results after it goes through the Continental Congress. You're going to miss the video. You should wait. Okay, ready? We have, you'll be able to know who they are right away. We have Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. All of them were actually on the committee to draft the Declaration. And they basically decided to defer to Jefferson to write the initial draft. And this is from the John Adams series, which was on HBO some years ago. And Jefferson has just delivered to them his draft. Huh? Possibly. I haven't seen it. Yeah. Again. You're gonna like it when I show you the Lincoln movie later.
That's debatable.
No, I'm not gonna show you that one. But you'll like the fact that the actor from the Vampire Slayer movie is in the Lincoln film.
Is it a happy ending?
A happy ending. Yes. If you're on the Confederate side.
What if you're on the right side?
It depends on which ending you're talking about. You'll see it later.
Something altogether unexpected. Not only a declaration of our independence, but of the rights of all men. This is well said, sir. Very, very well said. The Christian king of Great Britain has waged cruel war against human nature itself, in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere. Yes, you lay the evils of slavery at the feet of the king, but you say nothing of slavery itself, sir. Now, surely, if the trade is outlawed but ownership is not, then those unfortunate Negroes still in servitude will become a more lucrative commodity.
Well, that's not what I intended, Dr. Franklin. Slavery is an abomination and must be loudly proclaimed as such, but I own that neither I nor any man has any immediate solution to the problem.
Oh, well, tis no matter. The issue before us is independence and not emancipation. Dr. Franklin, this document is something our friends in the Congress will debate, but I would be very surprised if they will countenance an attack on slavery. No. We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable, that all men are created equal, etc. Sacred and undeniable. Smacks of the pulpit. You're not mistaken, sir. I share your sentiment.
Every single word was precisely chosen. I assure you of that, Dr. Franklin.
Yes, but yours will not be the only hand in this document. It cannot be. They will try to mangle it, and they may succeed. There may be expressions which I would not have inserted if I had drawn it up, but I will defend every word of it.
We have this idea that this is like gospel. Nobody edited it. It was written and it came out perfectly. It came down from the mountain. It was written onto a stone and carved out. And Moses Jefferson brought it to us.
Did you split the Red Sea?
He split the Red Sea and they went on to star in this show.
Split the Red Army?
Yeah, he split the Red Army. There it was, Jefferson. Was sent by President Wilson to go fight against the Russians.
So Adam is the one who was reading it the first time?
So the guy with the long hair is Benjamin Franklin. The guy with the glasses who was in the middle is John Adams. And then Jefferson, obviously, he's got it off to the side. Jefferson and Adams both will go on to be presidents. They're friends in this period, although they had just met, and they become good friends mostly because Adams was highly respected, though no one actually knew it before the time. And by the time Jefferson is in the Washington administration, he and Adams have become bitter enemies, and they will hate each other for decades. And right in a few years before they both die, they actually kind of put things behind each other, although it's not the same as us. But what does the Declaration do? I mean, they make some reference to it in this clip, but what does it do that's different than the other documents we looked at?
Was that like the directly and specifically attached to the thing?
Okay, for one thing, there's no His Majesty's loyal subjects here. They're not loyal anymore. They're disloyal. Not only that, they're treasonous and proclaiming it loudly.
There's also like the argument about the self-evidence thing, and kind of like they don't want us to test that we have rights. They want to say that we see.
Well, yeah, as the initial response that Adams has is, wow, this isn't just about the colonies. This is a big universal document that you've drawn up, and that's true. It's a kind of a manifesto.
And I wanted to point out that John Locke said that all people have the rights of happy, it was replaced with the pursuit of happiness instead of property. John Locke said property.
Life, liberty, and property.
Life, liberty, and property.
Yeah. This is, as I told you before, this is an entirely Lockean document. The whole thing rests on breaking the social contract, which is very Lockean. It even uses the life, liberty, and in this case, inserting property for pursuit of happiness as language. Why do you suppose they might drop the property aspect? It's a way of evading it, and as they're pointing out here, Jefferson's original document, if you look at the edited version that I showed you, if you look at where you see on the left his original, there's a whole section on slavery. All of that was removed. There's like a whole page of writing that the Congress simply said, no, we're not doing that. There is actually a subsequent scene after this where you actually see the Congress debating it. It's not, to me, it's not as interesting as this exchange. But they do end up removing all of those references. Why is it weird that Jefferson is writing that? Not just from Virginia, he's like one of the largest slaveholders in the colonies. And here he is saying, I don't think slavery is a good thing. Why is it a problem for him to just come out and say, let's just get rid of them?
Well, I guess they have to vote on the declaration. So if he says that Alec Hall is like directly in it, that's not how slavery is.
Well, he put that in his original draft, but why doesn't he just like free the slaves and make a point?
A lot of the colonies depend on slavery, and they're not going to agree for something that just frees what their economy.
They rely on them because
They're
slave society. It's one thing if remember the North societies with slaves. It's one thing if you just have some slaves and say, look, we're taking a hard line and we're getting rid of them. Or if you're Rhode Island, you happen to be the port of entry for the trade. You're like, yeah, we don't have that many slaves, but we have a whole lot of them passing through and we get rid of them. It's different if you're Virginia. Your whole economy for the last several centuries has been tied up in actually using people as part of owning people and using them as your labor force. And Jefferson recognizes that trying to reverse that is so difficult that he doesn't know what to do about it. And so it may not be so much hypocrisy. I think he recognizes that it should go. On the other hand, he's from a society that has the principle what to do about it. Huh? Yeah, well, this is the one thing, this will always keep scholars busy. They're always arguing over Jefferson and the slave question. Because he'll live long enough that he will see some of the other concerns that are raised in the early 19th century, and he would generally take a very weak position. And so there's lots to criticize him for, and at the same time he writes this document.
So why does, even though Jefferson owns a lot of slaves, why does he put in the Declaration of Independence like the slaves have rights?
Well, one, it seems that the reason he wants to have that fight is because he does actually believe this. As I said, he doesn't know what to do about it, but he does believe that it's an issue. But who is the target? You were just telling me there's no His Majesty's loyal subjects here. Who does he lay the blame on? The king, as if somehow the king is responsible for slavery. Is the king responsible for the slave trade? So, on the one hand, he's making this big universal statement. On the other hand, he seems to be blaming anything he can on the king for the sake of blaming the king. What else does? What are the other reasons? Not just Jefferson, but obviously the Congress endorsing what he writes up. Why did they say that they're declaring independence? It's clearly not for the slavery issue.
Self-government? Like, government themselves?
But why do they need to govern themselves?
Like tax themselves.
Sure, they've been doing that already. Why this? And I'm not saying, look, we've already looked at a bunch of documents. We know that they have these traditions and that they want to do things a particular way. And you told me that this goes towards the king, but so what then do they blame on the king that they had? So it's just echoing Tom Paine.
He also says how about the rights that government is set up to protect those rights, and when a government no longer protects those rights, then it's the right of the people to abolish it.
Okay. That's the John Locke, but then they're going to have a series of things they're blaming the king for. You've already told me, yeah, slavery they can't really blame him for. What else do they blame the king for? Which is, again, from Tom Paine earlier in the year. What else?
Like depriving them
Okay, so we're back to some of the things we've heard out before.
Understanding army and
Okay, we've heard that too.
like the Boston Massacre was like people
And yeah, and sitting in the room reading the Declaration with Thomas Jefferson is the guy who defended the very same people who did that.
You don't acknowledge all of their
Yes. Specifics though, what again are they blaming the king for? Ordering troops.
for putting off trades.
Yeah, that's a big one. You keep coming back to it. And as I told you, that's a big deal to the colonists. They want to be able to do these things. Let me talk about what's going on in 1776. I mentioned to you that it's not going very well for the colonists. The British had three options that they considered. One was what's called the Southern Strategy. They were going to invade South Carolina. They do eventually use that, but that's not the initial one. Another one is an invasion from the coast into Pennsylvania, into Philadelphia. And then there's this one, which is the one they ultimately use. They decide what they need to do is that they need to divide the troublemakers of Massachusetts from troublemakers elsewhere. And that if they divide the colonies and cut them off from each other, that this will bring an end to the rebellion. And actually, this is the reason that Washington's going to dispatch his Ethan Allen and his troops up to upstate New York, where they successfully capture some cannon and bring them over to Boston. So the invasion of New York happens in August of 1776. It goes through the rest of the year. The Americans have no need. We're going to get a close-up here. I forgot there's some ones. Now there's this initial engagement with Washington is going to lead this retreat, I told you, which happens during the night. They're going to leave Long Island and cross over into New York City. He does that without losing a single man. Then he's going to do another retreat out of Manhattan, going north there, and this will be the next expedition. He does that without the British even knowing that he's done it. They do eventually catch up to him, but he makes this initial maneuver without him even knowing that he had taken a move. So he's conceded New York to the British. They're eventually going to regroup. Now, the reason they did that is because Washington had been able to put together a spy ring, and they determined where the weak spots were in the British military, and they had discovered that there were going to be German mercenaries, that they would be able to get a victory at Princeton. So this is the famous crossing of the Delaware. Again, it was the spies who gave them the information. No one's expecting an attack from Trenton. was, on the one hand, an attempt to turn things around. They don't actually, they're not really able to, they have a few victories. They have a battle at Saratoga, which is going to be important. But what is going to be the turning point for the American army? Almost any answer you give me, I'm going to say good guess. But no. It's when the French arrive.
Yeah.
So, yes. So the very people that Washington triggered the war with back in the 7 Years' War are the people who are going to come to his aid in order to have the American military succeed in the seas. Yes, they do have some victories.
What's the battle called?
The one I just mentioned?
Yeah.
Well, the French, I forget when they exactly arrived. Usually, some people would say one of the turning points is at Saratoga. That's probably the biggest battle of the conflict. But the French entry, and in particular their navy, is going to be fundamental because the Americans don't have a navy. Eventually, they'll have some merchant ships that they convert, but it's really the French they have to think for getting that going. Oh, okay. So if you go to Moodle, last week, that's where you'll find it. Last week it says Revolution Module. It looks like the one we did on Virginia, which is to say it looks like this. And then when we go to evidence, you're going to see we have four groups. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count you off by fours and put you in groups with new people. So if you're antisocial, too bad. You're number one?
Two, three.
I started here. You're three. Okay. So ones, I'm going to put you over here. Twos, I'm going to put you over here. Right here, twos. If you're a two already, you can take threes over there. Fours over there by take one. I'm going to mix up.
Today and there's no tomorrow. When you find sadness, I find sorrow. Nobody knows, but it always shows. I think I'm losing my mind. That's the way that it goes, and it's fine.
Men. Number two, you're going to have women. Number three, you're going to have dissenters and non-presents. Number four, you have African Americans.
This is Derek. Oh. Which link is it? Wait, what are we doing? Which link is it? Evidence, I think? Let's go down. Wait, no, scroll up. Oh, it's the Revolution module. It's up one more, I think. This one. No problem. So we're doing women? Should we read all of these?
Let's put
So you can break them up however you want.
I want to do Benjamin Rush.
You want to do what?
Benjamin Rush. Wait. I'll do.
Well, they
I'll
don't
do a
have
cartoonist society.
everything is to their benefit.
I'll do number 11.
Everything is to their benefit.
I'll do number 10.
Yes, everything. They're represented.
Sure.
They don't have to worry about
Kathy, go.
whether or not they're going to be able to vote. They don't have to worry about
Abigail Adams.
whether or not they're going to be.
I'll do the cartoon.
From
I'll do 11. Do number 12.
What about,
You're gonna blind.
no, I mean, like,
But the people without property and the women and the African Americans, none of those assumptions hold true.
what about, like, middle class? Like, 19? Probably not.
Wait, if you have a short one, you have to do
In the case of Massachusetts,
I'll do
you're
number
talking
two.
about
Wait, no,
middle class.
still
So
two.
maybe you talk
Number
about,
nine.
say, people who are non-Protestant
You're doing seven.
I'll do number
are
Is 7 the cartoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
do number 11. No, do number 12. I'll do number 11.
So if you're middle class male, you're in Massachusetts.
There's just Kathy gonna do
If you're
it.
Protestant,
Kathy's
no
not
issue.
in our
She's gonna do number 8. No, she'll do that one just now.
Or
She'll do number 8.
if you are
You do number 12.
some other category and you call yourself outside of it, then it'll be different.
Do you ever get Google Drive so you can help her like notes or whatever?
Yeah.
Have your email addresses?
Look at you getting everyone's email addresses.
Yeah. I have like 5 emails that I notes.
Well, the question here is about politics. So, you want to know how many people are actually fighting? I mean, they're putting together an army of
Oh
volunteers.
boy, I
If you
love
have enough
sexism.
money, you can be an officer in the league. If you don't, then you're immediately enlisted.
Okay, what are your email addresses? I think I have yours.
That will be true all the way through the Civil War as well.
You already put mine in.
In the American Civil War, if you were wealthy, you could actually buy somebody to take your place.
You don't have
Draft
916.
So you get drafted, so you don't want to go.
Yeah.
You pay some poor guy.
Oh, you do have.
Okay, wait a sec.
It's Kathy. Who's
This tag long.
That's I put in a fake name. I'm paranoid.
Facebook video?
Hmm?
You didn't like tag long. Facebook video?
No. Okay.
I should have Google Drive. It's on the Revolution. It's afterwards. It's for women. I should have Google Drive thing with you. I should have Google Drive. have anything specific, like just like what's called like poem in the fish or something. But do you mind sharing? Yeah.
Who still needs time to read their document? African American group. you all finished? Okay, we're gonna, because we have a short day when I see you next, we're gonna start with this group so that we can try to get through the documents. So tell us about your document and what's going on.
Some document one, and this was from Lord Dunmore, who was the governor of Virginia, during a revolt by his militia, who weren't listening. So what he did is he pretty much offered freedom to slaves and indentured servants in return for them taking up arms and defending him.
Now, we've seen this play before. What happened the last time slaves and servants took up arms against the governor of Virginia?
Bacon's Rebellion.
In this case, we have the governor actually siding with the slaves and servants. How do you suppose the rest of the population will react? So, some people have argued, there's a guy named Woody Holton, and his argument is that if there was anything that was going to push Virginians into the revolution, if they were sitting on the fence, Lord Dunmore's proclamation would do it. So, congratulations, Virginia now and Massachusetts now have something in common, if that's what the empire was trying to achieve. What else do we have?
I have the second document, the memoirs of Boston King.
What happened to Boston King?
He was like a slave, and his master lasted for like a bit longer than he should have, and the guy that replaced him for the period of time when his master was away was like really cruel and stuff, so he left and joined up with the British. And then he did like a bunch of like servant work and stuff for them, and then eventually I think a guy turned like traitor or something, so he reported him, and then somehow he ends up with the colonists again and like becomes a slave for them. And then after that, it was like kind of weird.
Where does he end up?
Like what point?
So
I think he ends up back in England in the end.
well, he ends up in Canada. The American Revolution is very important to Canadian history because it's when there's this huge surge in the population thanks to the Canadian refugee policy, all of these people will stream over the border into Canada, and their population gets really big with all these people who support the king and escaped slaves. Boston King is somebody who, like a number of people during the war, the British offer freedom to the slaves. They don't necessarily deliver on it. Some of them will actually end up re-enslaved. A bunch of them, if they're lucky, will be able to get away. King ultimately, takes his leave to flee to Canada. What else do we have?
I read document 3. It's written by this guy, Alexander Hamilton, and he's writing...
Alexander Hamilton, we've never heard of him before.
Yeah. So, he's writing this other guy, John Day, and his whole...
Maybe you've heard of his best friend, Aaron Burr.
Oh, yeah.
Go
He's good
ahead.
IMSA.
Yeah, he's a IMSA grad of 76.
Oh.
17.
So Alexander Hamilton's whole deal was that he really wanted that slaves to also be incorporated into the army, and he was trying to back up his position by saying that, well, a lot of people in South Carolina, the battalion was to be organized in South Carolina, but a lot of people there didn't think that it would be smart to use black slaves as people, as soldiers.
But Hamilton is one of these people who actually thinks it's perfectly appropriate, and he supports the use of the black soldier.
Yeah, so he sort of makes this commentary on race that like that black slaves aren't born with anything different than the white people are. So that's sort of a thing that he tries to emphasize, that like having them as soldiers isn't going to be any different, and it would even be better because they've grown up with servitude anyway. So
Yeah.
they would be better suited to
don't worry. Just when we think we're liking Alexander Hamilton again, I will give you a reason to hate him. That's later. What? We have a couple more documents.
Yeah. The fourth one was about so like each state was drafting their own state constitution. Because in Massachusetts, part of it was that every adult male property owner could vote, excluding African Americans, Indians, and people with a mixed background. And so the town of
Sutton.
They objected to this, basically because if they wouldn't be represented, no one would represent them.
So Sutton, Massachusetts takes this very dramatic. They see the Declaration quite literally, and if everyone is equal, that means everyone, and all of these people should have the right to full citizenship.
So at the end, they make it to change that it's everyone to vote in the district.
Okay. And
for document 5, I had Pennsylvania's Gradual Emancipation Act. And in 1780, Pennsylvania passed a law to gradually emancipate slaves. And it says that at the time of the law, no more slaves could be enslaved, and that the children of the slaves born after that time were not slaves, but were indentured servants that were required to serve for 20 years of their life. And it also gave children of slaves, slaves before the law was passed, rights of indentured servant, except to be a witness in court against the white man. It also gave punishments for treating them wrong. For helping slaves escape.
so we see that the race issue is very much on people's minds during the Revolution, and whether or not people who are not part of the, in this case, just racial majority, should be given the same rights. Right? What were you going to say?
Well, I document 6.
Oh, you had document 6 too?
Yeah.
Go ahead, fill
Well,
us in
yeah,
before we go.
So document 6 was pretty much a petition from people in Virginia to their parliament, or not their parliament, but their legislature, making sure that they can get their slaves taken, because they felt that with the Pennsylvanians starting to begin the process of abolishing slavery.
Yeah, and what you see in a place like Virginia is, well, when we say all people are created equal, and we just mean this specific group, right? And so Sutton, Massachusetts has a very different idea than Virginia too. When I see you on Thursday, we'll finish.